Hello, welcome back. Let's go ahead and take a look at this particular video where we'll take a look at stuff with the terminal history and terminal length as well. So the overview again, terminal history, configuring the terminal history size, terminal length, and configuring the terminal length. Again, this is build up of the previous video that we took a look at based on the initial configuration, setting the clock, host name, domain name, those type of things. So we're building up on this particular lab of ours. So over here, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is terminal history. What is terminal history? Terminal history basically is going to have a list of all the different commands that you've done in this particular, not all, but the previous commands that you've done in your session over here. So it keeps track of the sessions, the commands in that particular session, but a certain number of commands. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's go into one of those routers. Excuse me. So you have router 1 over here, and let's do some commands over here. Show IP interface brief, ping, ping the other guy, config T, oops. I'll rectify that also in a future video, how I typed in a wrong command. It went in and started looking for conf T. It thought that I was communicating to a server. So by default, when you type in a command which is a wrong command, it thinks you're talking or trying to communicate to a server. It tries to resolve it, sending it as a broadcast to any of the DNS servers. Hey, do you happen to know this host name? It doesn't exist. So I'll show you how to avoid it looking for a mistyped command as a domain name. How can you avoid that? We'll do that in a later video. So conf T over here, do some commands over here, go into the interface, exit, exit. Now if you do a command called show history, it shows you all the different commands that I've typed in over here. All right, good. Everybody okay with this? So over here, if you want to keep a history of all the different commands that is listed, this is in your terminal history. The number of commands that it can keep varies from one version of the iOS to another one. Let's take a look at how many commands will it save by default. There's a command called show terminal, which will tell you that. When I do show terminal over here, this particular iOS has the ability to store 20 commands. Okay, and this can vary from anywhere from 10 to 20 depending on the iOS that you're running. So basically, if you want to extend this range so you can have more commands stored in your history so you can keep track of it in this particular session, you have the ability to modify this number. By default, as I said, the number changes, varies from one iOS to the other. In our case, the history size is 20 over here. So how do I change it? In order to change the terminal history size, you do it directly in the privilege exec mode. This is another one of those commands that you don't need to go into global config modes. As I said, certain commands that you can do in terms of configurations, which are done inside your privilege exec as well. So I specify the command terminal history size and the number. There's a lab that I want you to do which specifies it to be a certain number. What is that number? They want terminal history size to be 50 on R1, show terminal to see that verification that it's taken, show history to see the previous commands that you have, and R2 you want to set it to remember the last 60 commands. So let's go ahead and do those two over here, 50 over here. And how do I verify it? Show terminal again. It should have changed this to from 20 to 50. Again, another thing that we'll be taking a look at in a bit is the number of lines that is shown when I did the show terminal command before it caused the thing to pause. Press space and it'll give you the second page of the commands. Let's do the same thing on router 2. Show terminal should tell you that you have a size set to 20. You want to change it. How do I change it? Terminal history size, and they wanted you to change it to 60. What is the max? You can always do a question mark to see what the maximum this operating system allows you. The range is between 0 to 256. So I'm going to do 60 over here and verify that it's set over here. Very simple. I just wanted you guys to see how to set that up, which is useful sometimes because you might want to see what are the different commands that I did to accomplish a certain task. Now that I've done that, the other thing that I also want you guys to take a look at is the terminal length command. What is a terminal length command? If you remember when I did the show terminal command, it stopped, paused after a certain number of lines. What is that certain number of lines that it pauses after? And that's what you have the ability to change with the length. The length allows you the ability to specify the number of lines that you want to see in one shot in one page before it pauses and goes to the next line. The default, again, it varies from one line, one iOS to the other. The length by default is set to 24 lines. So this is the default number of lines that will show up, because I haven't changed it. This is taking the defaults from this particular iOS, but this again can vary from one iOS to the other. All right, I want to change it. What do I want to change the length to so that it stops after that number of lines? Maybe it's showing you too many or too less number of lines. You can change it, and that's what the lab has you do. So terminal length will allow you the ability to specify after how many lines do you want to pause. Then you press the space bar or the enter. Now there is a special value. If you specify it to 0, it doesn't stop. 0 does not mean stop. It means don't stop, just go all the way to the end. Essentially not setting it at all. So how do I do that? Very simple again. Same place that I set the history, I would do my terminal length as well. What do they want you to do it to? 40 for R1 and 0 for R2, so you can see that it doesn't pause. So R1 first, terminal length 40, I believe, and you can see in your show terminal that it has changed to 40. Oops. Right over here. And if I go to router 2, I want to change this to not to stop, right? If I set the length to 0 and I do the same show terminal command, which was stopping and pausing after 24 lines before, now is not pausing. It showed the entire line in one shot because the length is 0. So 0 is a special number that tells it don't stop at all. Just display everything in one shot. Small video, simple video, but important things that, again, I'm building up the basics or the blocks for you to know how the iOS actually runs. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's see you in the next video.